You slapped a twink bread in a war lab. That wasn't a mistake. That was your death sentence. The arena was a godless coliseum of glass and steel orbiting the dead moon of Eurus 9. Built by the Galactic Triarchy as a symbol of dominance, the penance ring was where civilizations were crushed for sport, where slaves were made into martyrs, and where the broken were offered as entertainment. The screams of the crowd echoed like thunder in a cage, alien warlords, twisted aristocrats, even drunk diplomats, billions of eyes watching, waiting, laughing. They weren't prepared for what was about to happen. The combatants were already in place. On the east platform stood Frex Volgren, a decorated veteran of the Imperial ground wars. He was 8 feet tall, plated in warforged armor composed of nanosteel and scale bone. His left eye glowed crimson, a targeting implant. His voice, when he growled, sounded like tectonic plates grinding together. Blood from past victories still stained the gaps in his gauntlets. He didn't wear trophies. He was one. His nickname across the stars was the Reaper of Red Sands. But not today, because across from him stood a boy, barefoot, shirtless, pale skin gleaming under the arena lights. Lithe, not bulky, lean muscle, brown hair just a little too long, soft curls brushing his jawline. Eyes, green, still unreadable. A black collar had left scars across his throat. His hands were bound until 5 minutes ago. Now they hung loose, fingers twitching slightly, as if listening to something no one else could hear. The screens flashed his name. Karen Vale. Species, human. Age, 17. Status, unarmed. Odds of survival, 0.02%. The crowd roared. "What is this?" growled a Hadrak general, laughing. "They sent a child." "Not even a fighter," spat another. "Just a pretty face for the slaughter. Looks like he should be selling drinks on Narcali Strip, not standing in a ring with Frex Volgren." They didn't know. Not yet. Karen didn't move, didn't speak, didn't blink. He simply stood, calm, empty, like silence before a hurricane. A low mechanical voice spoke across the arena from every speaker. "Commence combat." Frex moved first. No hesitation, no pump, no performance. He stumped forward like a tank, closed the distance in 4 steps. His shadow swallowed the boy's frame. His right arm rose, open hand, fingers spread. He slapped him. Crack! The sound echoed like lightning striking bone. Karen's head twisted violently. His lip split. Blood sprayed across the sand in a perfect arc. His body stumbled, spun, and crashed down to the floor. The crowd erupted in laughter. Cheers, roars, applause. From the balconies of royalty to the scum pits of black market dealers, every twisted soul in the arena celebrated. The announcers couldn't stop cackling. And down goes the Earth Boy. One slap from Frex and is down like, wait, hold. His getting up. Silence. The laughter faltered. Karen was rising. Slow. Deliberate. Like someone climbing out of a grave. His feet scraped across the sand. His head lowered, blood dripping from his chin. His back cracked slightly as he rolled his shoulders. And then he looked up, right at Frex. He smiled. Not wide, not cocky, just sharp, like a blade being drawn an inch from its sheath. That smile erased the cheers. One by one, Frex paused. Something in his nerves ticked wrong. A gut instinct. A soldier's sixth sense whispering the words. This isn't normal. Do you have anything to say before I tear you in half? Frex grunted. Karen's voice was like frost on glass. You missed. Frex blinked, and that was all it took. 3 seconds. First second, Karen vanished. Not ran, not dodged, vanished. One blink, and the human boy was no longer in front of Frex. Camera feed scrambled. AI trackers went blind. Thermal optics read only static. Gasps broke across the arena. The crowd shifted from amusement to confusion. Second, Karen reappeared. Behind Frex. Hand extended. Fingers gleaming, no longer bare skin. Hidden within his flesh, along the veins of his forearms, were 6 retractable microvibroblades, coated in monomolecular filament, illegal in every galactic accord. They weren't supposed to exist in them all. The claws extended soundlessly as he moved. Shink! Third second. Karen struck. Not with flair. Not with style. He drove his left hand up through Threx's back. The claws ripped through the warlord's reinforced spine, slicing vertebrae, arteries, and nerves in one flawless upward jab. His right hand gripped Threx's shoulder to anchor the momentum, twisting sharply as he lifted. The larger man screamed once, then gurgled, then cracked. Threx's spine tore out of his body, wet, pink, and steaming. His armored body fell in pieces, blood spraying from the halves in opposite directions. His weapon clattered uselessly to the sand. His head remained tilted toward the ceiling, eyes open, mouth stuck in a permanent last breath. Dead. Gone. Karen didn't flinch. He dropped the spinal cord beside the corpse like discarded rope, then slowly turned to the crowd. Silence ruled the galaxy for a full 20 seconds. No one moved. Billions of spectators, thousands of systems away, frozen in place. Somewhere, a noble spilled his drink. A pirate lord dropped his cigar. A Slaver prince whispered, "That's not possible." Up in the royal box, the Triarchy's emissary leaned forward. "Who the hell is that boy?" he hissed. A nearby advisor pulled up a file. His eyes widened in horror. "Sir, he's not just a slave. He's from Earth's Black Echo Protocol. A prototype. We thought the line was terminated." "You thought wrong," a voice whispered back. Karen's eyes scanned every drone camera, every face behind glass, every general behind his shielded booth. Then he finally spoke, soft, clear, and deadly. "One of you sold me. One of you bought me. I don't care who watches me kill you. I want them to remember." He stepped over Threx's body and kept walking. The doors to the arena exit began to slam shut. Too late. Karen moved like vapor. Through the seams, through the guards, through the next line of fools sent to stop him. And far above the arena, buried in the dreadnoughts watching from orbit, an alert blared in red. Warning. Black Echo Protocol has reactivated. Subject, Karen Vale. Status, uncontainable. You built the arena. You sent the giant. You brought the cameras. And now you're wondering why the fire is climbing the walls. The smell of burning metal spread through the arena tunnels. Acrid, sharp, unmistakable. Karen Vale moved like a shadow stitched to violence. His bare feet slapped the alloy floors in silence, blood still dripping from his claws, some of it Threx's, some of it his own. His heartbeat, steady, breathing, unchanged. Behind him, the penance ring burned. Above him, across 17 trillion screens, billions watched in breathless silence. Karen, the boy they called meat 5 minutes ago, had just torn the Galactic Legion's apex predator in half with his bare hands. The cameras hadn't caught most of it. He'd moved too fast. But the aftermath was clear. Threx's spine lay in the sand like a rope dipped in red, and Karen was still walking. Control deck, upper arena tier. Panic moved like fire through the high command tower. Alien strategists screamed into radios, systems officers scrambled to purge footage, and nobles pounded on reinforced glass like cage rats. One by one, their bodyguards tried to call evac ships. Every signal came back the same. Lockdown initiated. No vessel clearance granted. "What do you mean? We're locked in," shrieked Admiral Carrix, a silver-scaled serpent commander. "Override the gates." The officer beside him trembled. "Sir, it's not a technical malfunction. Someone's overriding everything manually." "From where?" She swallowed. "Inside the control net. From the arena floor." Down below, Karen walked straight through a platoon of G7 armored enforcers like they were paper targets. One tried to lift his railgun. Karen ducked, spun, pulled a blade from the dead man's thigh, and drove it into another's throat without looking. A third tried to run. Karen caught him by the back of the head and rammed it into the wall so hard it sounded like a coconut splitting. His eyes were cold, empty, focused, not bloodthirsty, purposeful. High Tower broadcast room, VIP box. From the deck above, Chancellor Ravel watched it unfold. Leader of the Triarchy, drenched in wealth, pride, and 100 years of undisputed rule. He wasn't afraid. Not yet. He was angry. Who? Sent. Him. Ravel growled, staring down at the burning arena. This boy was processed as a slave. Registered. Vaccinated. Tagged. Assigned to Ring 3. How the hell did he make it into a death match with my top legionnaire? His minister, pale and sweating, stammered through a datapad. Sir, there's something in his file. Something buried. Spit it out. His not born. Not exactly. Earth didn't breed him. They built him. What? His from Project Echo. 1 of 6. Genetic augmentations, bone-hardened density, spike reflexes, low pulse sensory range. They designed him for assassination, infiltration, and mass dismemberment. But the project was never fully deployed. We assumed all subjects were destroyed when Earth fell. Ravel leaned in, eyes narrowing. And how exactly did one get off-world and onto my station? Sir, the minister whispered, we bought him at auction. He was sold in the Strylith chains. Nobody knew. A long silence. Then, get me the execution teams. Karen, Sector C, machine access halls. He moved through the lower decks like the building owed him something. It did. Every corridor had eyes, cameras, sensors, little orb drones drifting like flies. He looked directly at one. Not a glance. A lock-on. Cold green eyes against a million watching. And he whispered, this is where you die. 30 feet ahead, heavy boots pounded the floor. The execution team. Clad in obsidian plates, these weren't guards. These were killers. Voidborn. Wired with impulse stimulants and drop reflexes. They didn't talk. They didn't feel. They cleaned mistakes. There were 6 of them. Karen didn't stop walking. Engagement start. The first soldier leveled a scattergun. Karen dove sideways, not away, but into the shot, sandglass dodging. The spray missed by a whisper. Mid-air. He twisted, kicked off the wall, and threw a vibro knife through the second man's visor. It sank halfway into his skull. 3 others opened fire, coil guns pulsing. Karen flipped, rolled, slid under the barrage like he was made of fog. Caught the third's ankle mid-spin, ripped, knee snapped sideways. A scream. He crushed a man's neck with a stomp and flipped behind the next. 2 seconds later, the last soldier was the only one left. He backed up, trembling. Karen stared at him, held out his hand. The soldier gave him the gun, and then bit his own tongue to avoid capture. Upper broadcast towers. 3 seconds. Ravel whispered, watching through the camera drone. He just killed 6 executioners in 3 seconds. That's impossible, the minister choked. No, Ravel stood slowly, hands tightening behind his back. That's designed. And then the worst thing happened. A new voice entered the room. Cold, familiar. It came through every speaker, every screen, every emergency frequency across the station. You sent a giant to slap a weapon you didn't understand. Now you're watching what happens next. My name is Ezra Vale. Karen's not alone anymore. Ezra Vale, orbiting Star Cruiser above Penance Ring. The bridge of the stolen cruiser Nameless Wind was dark, cold, full of red lights. One boy sat alone at the command console, hair shorter, sharper jawline, black gloves gripping the controls. Ezra Vale, Karen's twin. Presumed dead. Escaped slave chain 6 years ago. He hadn't died. He'd vanished into the galaxy's underlayers and started planning. Now he watched his brother bring down an arena with nothing but his bare hands. He pressed a button, and every orbiting ship, every single one, lost control of its navigation systems. Ezra spoke again, calm as glass breaking. You should have never touched Earth. You should have never bought my brother. Now none of you are getting out of orbit. Back in the arena, Karen ascends. Karen reached the stairwell to the upper command tower. His body was drenched in blood, none of it his. The claws retracted. His breath, still calm. He was going up. He was going for Ravel. The guards above were running now. Evac doors jammed. Gravity plates misfiring. And on every screen across the galaxy, one message burned. Who sent the twink? It started with a slap. It ends with extinction. The tower gates were shutting. Slabs of uranium 2 feet thick, reinforced with magnetic locks and vault-seal cores, capable of withstanding orbital strikes, now crashing down in red-lit panic to seal off the arena's control tiers from the slaughter rising beneath them. But it wasn't enough. Nothing was. Because Karen Vale wasn't a fighter. He wasn't a slave. He was a biological correction for what the galaxy had done to Earth. He walked toward the blast doors like a man not interested in their existence. Every footstep sounded like defiance. Blood soaked his skin. His bare shoulders glistened under flickering lights. His hands, just hands now, claws retracted, dripped red across the floor. Behind him, the arena floor was littered with corpses, legionnaires, enforcers, execution teams. The crowd cheers had died an hour ago. Now it was only screaming. Panic, lockdown sirens, and fear. Not the kind you feel in war. Not the kind you feel when a gun's in your face. The kind of fear that whispers, we unleash something we can't put back. Above him, the doors locked with a final metallic slam. He tilted his head, looked up at the blinking cameras, spoke 2 words. Open it. The doors didn't move. He took 1 step forward and placed his palm on the metal, closed his eyes. For 2 seconds, nothing happened. Then the entire control tower shook. Bridge deck, command tier. Inside, officers screamed. The primary blast gate is melting. Impossible. That's reinforced. Sir, something's in the car system. It was true. From somewhere deep within the arena's infrastructure, a second virus had activated. Clean, fast, and terrifying. Inside every control loop, inside every override subroutine, 3 words repeated in unbreakable loops. Echo is here. In orbit, on the stolen cruiser Nameless Wind, Ezra Vale stood with both hands hovering above a red-lit control sphere. His eyes glowed faint blue. Neural links fed into the ship's captured AI. His voice was calm, spoken through thousands of speakers and screens in real time. The gate doesn't open because you press a button. It opens because we let it. And we're done being polite. He twisted the sphere once. Below, the blood gate exploded. Not opened, exploded. Uranium scattered like shrapnel into the corridor beyond, where 2 squads of elite Paladin-class defenders stood waiting. They didn't wait long. Karen stepped through the smoke. Chest bare, eyes bright, mouth curled just slightly at the corners. He looked like a boy from a dream. Until he moved. He didn't run. He descended, like a predator falling through a crowd. First soldier lifted a plasma lance. Karen twisted his body sideways in midair, caught the weapon by its hilt, and drove it up through the wielder's mouth until it burst out the back of his skull. He didn't stop moving. A rifle fired from the left. Karen snatched a bullet. Metal sparked against metal as he deflected it with a blade in his palm. Mid-motion, he threw the weapon into the shooter's throat. They collapsed gurgling. Another tried to flank him. Karen flipped backward, caught the man by the elbow, and turned the joint completely backward with a wet crack. Then he paused, stepped back, let the final guard raise their weapon. The guard shook, whimpered. A female Dravari with deep red skin and 4 arms, all trembling. She didn't fire. Go, Karen said. She did. The corridor cleared. Only the lift shaft remained, leading up to the Triarchy throne chamber. Karen stood in front of it, silent. Then a voice clicked into his ear. Hey, brother, Ezra said, calm as a winter knife. Party's almost over. Ready to end it. Karen smirked. Open the elevator. Already done. Chamber of Rule, Triarchy Observation Hall. It was luxury built from conquest, crystal domes, gold-gilded balconies, marble carved from planets that no longer existed. 10 nobles remained inside, each armed, each with guards, each pretending they weren't afraid. In the center, Chancellor Ravor stood on a raised throne. He wore robes of war silk and rings forged from dead worlds. He didn't run. He never had to. He owned the arena. He built it. He stared at the doors, listened to the screams on the levels below. You hear that? He said to no one in particular. That's the sound of centuries ending. One of the nobles spoke. Chancellor, we must evacuate. We're not going anywhere. Not yet. Not until I speak to the boy myself. But he'll kill us. He's not here to kill us. Ravor smiled. He's here to make sure the galaxy never forgets how we die. The elevator dinged. Karen walked into the chamber alone. No armor, no weapon in hand. Only his eyes, only the silence behind his footsteps. One of the guards charged, desperate. Karen didn't flinch. The man's neck snapped before the rest could blink. Another fired a full plasma clip. Karen absorbed it, redirected the heat, and hurled the soldier across the chamber. The noble screamed. But Ravor? He clapped. Slow, measured. Well done, he said. Magnificent. You've killed hundreds today. You've destroyed my arena. You've disrupted the order of 17 systems. And for what? Revenge. Karen tilted his head. No, he said. Correction. Ravor's smile twitched. Is that what you call it? You made me. Then you tried to bury me. Now I return the favor. Ravor drew his ceremonial blade. Come then, boy. Kill me, and be the monster you were built to be. Karen looked at him, then vanished. It wasn't a fight. It was a message. The blade hit the floor first. Then Ravor's hand. Then his scream. And finally, his spine, torn from his body and driven like a flag through the center of his own throne. Karen didn't speak again. He walked through the chamber, through the fire, through the nobles gasping and crying and begging, and left without looking back. High orbit, nameless wind. Ezra watched the feed cut to black. He turned toward the communications panel and transmitted across every broadcast system still alive. His voice was sharp. Let this be your warning. The boy you mocked, the child you auctioned, the twink you tried to humiliate. He didn't survive. He evolved. And for every planet that cheered while Earth burned, his coming. You think this is a war, but it's just a reckoning. The arena was silent now, not the quiet of a battle's end, not the respectful hush of survivors. It was a quiet of realization, the sound that comes after terror takes root in the bones of civilization. Across 17 systems, the live broadcast was supposed to be a blood sport, an afternoon spectacle. They had gathered to watch a boy die. What they got instead was a massacre, a dismantling, a system-shattering wake-up call delivered by two Earthborn ghosts they thought had burned with their home. Karen Vale had turned the arena into a grave. His brother, Ezra, had locked the orbital fleet from escape. Now came the part nobody saw coming. The message, high orbit, the nameless wind. Ezra Vale stood alone in the crimson-lit bridge of the stolen cruiser. The stars beyond the glass were unmoving, because every ship in the blockade were frozen. Powerless. Ezra had overridden the command relays, corrupted the hyperspace loops, and killed nav guidance across the fleet. They were caged now, and Earth Sons held the key. Ezra wasn't dressed for command. He wore a sleeveless black shirt, gloves, combat pants. His arms were pale, corded with thin muscle and scars. He looked like a teenager in a backstreet club, but the fire in his eyes made admirals flinch from miles away. He activated the transmission again. One more time, for the entire galaxy to hear. This isn't an attack. This is a lesson. You laughed when Earth burned. You drank while our cities turned to ash. Then you turned our survivors into cattle. You made our children fight for your amusement. Today was your final episode. Ezra paused. Behind him, the reactor hummed louder. We are not the message. We're the warning shot. He cut the feed, then activated the Dead Sun Protocol. Penance ring, now burning. On the arena floor, Karen moved like an unfinished storm. The nobles were dead. The guards were vapor. The towers crumbled from within. The corridors glowed red, drenched in heat and plasma burns. Survivors, servants, medics, technicians, fled through smoke-choked holes, slipping in blood and screaming names that would never answer again. But Karen didn't hunt them. He was already past that. He walked now through the vault chambers, places where prisoners had been kept, auctioned, tortured. He'd lived in one, shackled, starved, tested like a lab rat in front of high-paying spectators. Now he was setting them free. He reached cell block X9, pulled the emergency lever. Dozens of cells hissed open. Inside, humans, boys and girls no older than him. Some younger, malnourished, wide-eyed. their bodies tattooed with slave ID codes. Most didn't speak. Karen stood among them, blood still streaked across his chest. He opened his arms. "It's over," he said. They flinched. He stepped closer. "I'm not here to hurt you. I was one of you. I still am." Finally, one boy stepped forward, no older than 14, ribs showing, eyes like glass. You killed them all?" he asked. Karen nodded. The boy didn't smile. He wept, and every other prisoner followed. Tears. Not joy. Not relief. Release. They didn't have a word for this feeling anymore. System broadcast, unfiltered. Across the galaxy, 100 million feeds still played. Every bar, every ship, every station. No one drank. No one spoke. They just watched. Karen's image, bare-chested, blood-soaked, standing among freed prisoners, had replaced the sports feed. Even those who hated Earth didn't cheer its fall now. Because deep down, in places they didn't admit out loud, they realized the truth. They weren't safe anymore. If one twink could slaughter a legionnaire in 3 seconds, if 2 brothers could hijack a fleet, if dozens of liberated humans could rise from the ashes, then nothing was under control. Underground barracks, last-line defense. The last platoon remained, 12 elite warframes. They were the Null Choir, a strike force only deployed for final-stage extinction events. Chemical nerve interface combatants. Built to kill AI, super soldiers, even planetary gods. They activated silently, heads down, weapons hot, and started marching toward the control tower, where Karen waited. Top of the arena, Penance Core platform. Karen stood at the edge of the blast shield dome now. The wind whipped his hair sideways. His bare feet balanced on broken tile. Behind him, children fled. Behind him, blood dried. Ahead, a squad built for extinction. Ezra's voice clicked in. "Karen, you've got incoming." Karen didn't blink. "I know." 12 of them. Synthetics. Burners. Neural-linked. "I'll slow down." "Need backup?" "No. Just record it." Ezra hesitated. "Alredium." Engagement start. The Null Choir moved like angels of death, each one in chromatic armor, hovering slightly off the ground, plasma halos circling their shoulders. No mouths, just speaker grills. Their voices were synth-sized prayers. "Karen Vale, you are marked for removal." He looked at them. No smile, no rage, just the focus of a god who remembers pain. "I remember what you did to us," he said. "I was 10 when you dragged me screaming into the cage. You broke my teeth in front of a crowd. You laughed when I bled." He stepped forward. "Now I'll laugh when you beg." The first no leapt. Karen didn't wait. He charged. Their weapons fired in perfect sync. 12 plasma bolts screaming through the air. Karen weaved between them like smoke. The first Null tried to pin him. Karen slid low, uppercut its core panel, ripped it open, and shoved a blade into the reactor. Boom! 1 down. 2 circled behind. Karen flipped sideways off one shoulder, stabbed the second in the eye port, kicked off it back, and hurled its body into third. He never stopped moving. 5 seconds later, 5 of the Null Choir were burning. The others switched tactics. Quantum sync activated. They began to mirror each other's movements, one mind in 12 bodies. Karen laughed for the first time. Cute. Then he blinked. Literally. Disappeared. Ezra sat up straighter from orbit. "Karen, what did you just do?" Karen's voice was a whisper through the comms. "Protocol 9. One by one, the Null Choir's limbs began to seize. Then fail. Then explode. Ezra's eyes widened. "You loaded a resonance loop into your blood." "It's not in my blood." "Where is it?" Karen looked down at his palms. "Under my skin." 10 seconds later, 12 Null Choir soldiers were ash, and Karen Vale stood alone again, on top of the most feared arena in the galaxy, barefoot, bleeding, breathing calm, alive. Final broadcast from Nameless Wind. Ezra stood before the final camera feed, one hand on the detonator, the other raised in salute. He spoke to the galaxy one last time. "You turned our species into slaves. You made fun of our tears. You laughed at us when we begged. Now listen to this. We're not begging anymore. He hit the button. The penance ring exploded in orbit, cracked open like a fruit, debris raining across the system. From its ruins, 2 black ships emerged, silent, undetected, Earth-made. They didn't leave a trail. They left a promise. The first second was your warning. The second was your funeral. The third, that was just for Earth. Silence spread like radiation. After the destruction of the penance ring, 17 systems fell quiet. Not a political silence. Not the kind drawn by treaties or ceasefires. This was a psychological silence. The kind that follows a horror no one can explain without their voice cracking. The kind that echoes in the hallways of empires. The kind that makes tyrants glance over their shoulders in rooms they once ruled. Because it had happened. Because they'd all seen it. Because 2 Earthborn twins, Karen and Ezravale, had turned a galactic bloodsport into a funeral for supremacy. And the galaxy had no words left. 1 hour later, aboard the nameless wind, the stars were still. Ezravale stood on the shattered bridge of the stolen cruiser, bootsteps echoing over scorched metal. The fires were out now. The sky behind the viewing glass was thick with wreckage, molten fragments of the penance ring drifting like asteroid bones across the orbital layer. His fingers danced across the terminal. Final protocols unlocked. The last transmission was ready. He didn't smile. This wasn't a victory. It was a notice. Karen walked in behind him, body wrapped in a black cloak, dry blood cracking across his chest and arms. His face unreadable. His eyes locked on the screen. Behind him, dozens of survivors, young, hollow-eyed human prisoners once locked beneath the arena, sat in the shadows, watching, waiting. Karen nodded once. Ezra hit the feed. The final broadcast. Across the galaxy, everything else stopped. From merchant decks to noble courts, from mining colonies to orbital metropolises, every screen bled red. Ezra's voice filled the stars. This isn't a rebellion. This isn't a riot. This is recompense. The Galactic Triarchy ordered the execution of Earth survivors. They sold our children. They filmed our deaths. They called it peace. Now there is no peace. Karen stepped beside his brother. He didn't speak loud. He didn't have to. This is your final second. The first was when we warned you. The second was when we killed your gods. The third... He stared directly into the camera. That's right now. Ezra activated the 3-second war. First second, orbit disappears. 17 relay satellites exploded simultaneously across the inner ring of trade systems. They didn't break. They folded inward, imploding with resonance bursts, coded, electromagnetic detonations crafted from Black Echo technology. Earth's final war science. Long thoughtless, now unleashed. Every ship within 2 planetary orbits, blinded. Navigation failed. Shields dropped. Command chain snapped. The fleets of the Triarchy, floating in the dark. Second, ground burns. On planet Ralvekprim, a Triarchian military governor looked to the sky. He saw clouds burn. Flaming debris from orbital wreckage pierced the atmosphere. Precision-calibrated strikes. Artificial gravity spikes triggered tectonic ruptures. The capital city, once the center of 400 years of aristocratic rule, cratered in 12 seconds. Not from nukes. Not from kinetic weapons. From message bombs, coded phrases that infected planetary networks, triggering their own defense systems to eat themselves alive. Automated cannons spun and fired into civilian districts. Targeting AIS lost all friend or foe data. Defense satellites reclassified their own planets as hostiles. The war machines didn't malfunction. They understood. They obeyed Earth's code again. Third second, they rise. Back on the nameless wind, the survivors gathered around Karen. Young, scared, changed. Some held weapons. Some held nothing at all. But every one of them stared at the message on the holo wall. Asterisk, asterisk, the blood was never entertainment. It was memory. Asterisk, asterisk. Karen turned to them. We're not the last, he said. We're the first. Ezra stepped up. We aren't here to reclaim the galaxy. He looked at the children, at the scars, at the burnt wrists, at the blank, hollow pain. We're here to make sure the galaxy remembers why we left it screaming. Elsewhere, panic, riots, collapse. On Vexor 2, broadcast towers burned. On Cletus Prime, aristocrats were dragged from their towers by their own guards. On Next Station, a pirate fleet opened fire on their Triarchy overlords, screaming the word they had seen on Karen's broadcast. We don't die pretty. We kill ugly. Inside the void, final encounter. In the deep of no space, where light bends and sound dies, the last remaining Triarchy general, Var Shul, gathered his emergency council. 12 warlords, all afraid, all watching that same cursed clip, over and over. The boy, the spine, the crown of blood. We underestimated Earth, one said. Var Shul whispered, no, we underestimated what Earth left behind. Another slammed the table. We still have fleets. Fleets can't stop them. They are too twinks, for void's sake. Var Shul's eyes narrowed. No, he said, they are the Requiem. Back on the ship, final orders. The younger children were sleeping now. Not peacefully, but at least not in cages. Karen sat alone in the darkened corner of the bridge, sharpening one of the blades he had pulled from the Null Choir's corpses. Ezra approached. You didn't say what we're doing next. Karen looked up, eyes hollow, voice distant. We're going planet by planet. Ezra raised a brow. Targets. All of them. A pause. Then Ezra said quietly, they'll send everything to stop us. I hope they do. Because? Karen's voice became a whisper. I'm not done yet. Across the stars, the words burn in. As the systems tried to reboot, as military networks attempted damage control, as propaganda wings tried to spin the loss as an incident, a final virus activated across all remaining galactic archives. Every planet, every station, every billboard, every feed, every signal. One sentence appeared. In bold red. No music. No face. Just truth. You slapped the wrong twink. Final line. They thought the war was over when Earth died. But Earth didn't die. It descended. With claws. With fire. And it only took 3 seconds.